I like to think of the human being as a chaos pendulum. If you've seen what that is, I'll put it on the screen now. It's this very weird mechanism with around two poles. If you was to distribute a little bit of force on one of the poles, the whole mechanism is going to move in the most unorthodox, disorganized ways ever for the longest time. It will just move in a trajectory that you couldn't even predict, just from a little bit of force that you will apply onto one of the poles. And that's how human beings are. That's literally how we are. That's how we live our lives. But we believe that we live our lives with free will, that we have authority over who we are, the direction that we decide to move in, our behaviors. It's not the case. It's not the case. Everything is predetermined. Who you are, your current identity, your current pursuits, your partners, your friendships, the things that you're into. We believe that we have consciously chosen these things, but no. They're all predetermined. I don't believe we have free will. And this is what this video is about. This video is about understanding how our childhood has influenced so much in regards to our current identity today. Okay, our childhood wounds specifically. We really got to understand just how malleable, how suggestible we were as children. Because when you're that young, when you're a child, you literally rely on your caregivers, your parents, your environment, society to make you conscious that you are a self, that you are separate from everything else. Like I think I've said this in another video, but your mother literally has to separate you from her. Because there's a point before you actually reach consciousness where you literally share the same psychology as your mother. There is no difference between you or your mother. She needs to literally make that confirmation happen, that you are separate from her. She literally has to make that happen. You know, so when we're talking about that level of susceptibility and suggestibility, you can't be ignorant to the fact that all of the beliefs, all of the ideas that we've interjected throughout the first 20 years of our life, especially the first 10 years of our life, it's literally created our identity today. Okay? You don't understand how deep this goes. Like your mother or your father or your caregiver or a friend, they could have said one sentence to you that has completely changed the entire trajectory of your life. Because I'm sure there's pivotal moments in your life when you were a young child that you vividly remember that completely changed the way that you perceived reality, how you perceived people, how you perceived a certain subject, just from one sentence that somebody's told you, or one little thing that you've seen for 2 seconds, whether that was on the internet or in real life, whatever it is. All of these little things, they add up to our current identity now and how we interpret and perceive reality. So I'm going to give you an example. Bob is 6 years old. Bob has a very abusive, a very depressed, alcoholic mother, single mother, no father. Okay, because remember, you are literally the product of your parents or lack thereof. So don't think if you didn't have a father or you didn't have a mother that you have dodged the repercussions of potentially having an abusive parent. Not having a parent at all is going to shape who you are as an adult. Just know that. So Bob has a very abusive, alcoholic, depressed mother. And people who suffer with all of these negative emotions, right, who don't know how to deal with them, of course they're going to project it onto the people around them, especially people who are weaker than them, especially people who are more vulnerable, their own children. That's just going to happen. So Bob, he interjects all of this abuse because that's what children do. Children are very fucking vulnerable. Children are super vulnerable. So their survival lies with their caregiver. They know that biologically. They might not be conscious of it, but they know that biologically, that they can't survive without their caregiver, their mother, their father, wherever it is. So even on the outside, if the relationship is quite abusive, if the mother is abusing them emotionally, physically, whatever it is, All the child can do is internalize that abuse, right? And blame themselves. They don't have the ego strength to stand up for themselves. They can't, right? Because their survival lies within their caregiver. They can't survive without them. They know this. So they literally have to internalize that self-hatred that the parent is projecting, the abuse that the parent is projecting. They have to internalize that. It's sad. It's sad. And this happens. This does happen, right? When they internalize that abuse, they inevitably hate themselves. That's what self-hatred is. They have to hate themselves. Even though on the outside, it's not valid whatsoever, the way that this child is being brought up, is being abused by their mother or their father, wherever it is. But from the child's perspective, they believe that's what they deserve, right? Because they exist in this world, in this environment where they have their mother, that they should be grateful to, because they put food on the table and they keep them alive. So they have to internalize the abuse that they get. They have to. They can't think any way around. They can't think anything of it. They can't, because that's being ungrateful. And that rebellion, that valid rebellion that they're entitled to, doesn't constitute to their survival. Like I said. So like I said, they're going to internalize that self-hatred, and that becomes a complex. So let's go over the psychology of complexes. What exactly is a complex? If you've heard of Carl Jung, I've probably spoken about this in a previous video, but if you do subscribe to the channel, I'm going to be speaking about him and a lot of other psychologists and pioneers of psychoanalytic theory. I'm going to be speaking about a lot of these guys because their concepts are amazing. But complexes, Carl Jung came up with the concept of complexes. Complexes being an emotionally fueled idea. Okay, idea, belief, same thing. Like I said, the first 10 years of our life, we are literally just introjecting ideas. When I say introjection, introjection is essentially a downloading function of the psyche. So you literally download ideas, whether ideas are told to you explicitly or they're communicated to you implicitly, right? Because as children, we don't have the intellect, right? We don't have the faculties to really interpret things the way they're meant to be interpreted. But we understand body language, we understand behavior and how it makes us feel. So if a child is to be abandoned out of nowhere, if the mother is hot and cold, even if the mother doesn't say that, I don't love you, or you're not worthy, the behavior of abandonment and being hot and cold, the child, what's the child going to do in that situation? The child is going to imply that, I must not be worthy of this person's time. I'm not enough, right? There's a lot of inconsistency here. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Why can't the love that I get every now and then be consistent? The child internalizes that as a complex, i.e., I'm not enough. That's an idea. That's literally an idea that they interject. So that's the complex that we're talking about here. And when it comes to complexes are so interesting because they're not dormant. They don't remain stagnant in the sense that they don't just stay there. They're not just an idea that you can just completely disregard, right? They have their own autonomy, meaning they're alive. These ideas are alive. They will fight to sustain themselves. So they will live within your psyche and they will look for experiences in your life to reinforce and sustain its life force, right? So if you've interjected this complex that you're not enough, in your adult life, you're going to run into experiences, situations that could reinforce this complex that you're not enough. For example, if you're about to get into a relationship with somebody, This complex that has its own autonomy will get in the way of that relationship and self-sabotage. You'll find yourself self-sabotaging that relationship because that complex that tells you that you are not enough has gotten in the way of that dynamic. And so no matter what you try to do, you're always going to self-sabotage your results of the potential of having love full time. Let's just say that, because there was a lot of inconsistency in your childhood, right? If you had a mother who was very inconsistent, in and out, hot and warm, abusive, and you've interjected this complex that you're not enough. When you try, because remember, the psyche always wants some sort of equilibrium. It does want love. When you try to get that love in an actual healthy relationship, you are going to self-sabotage because it's too painful. The potentiality that this person could leave and abandon you like your mother did, it's just that, a potentiality. So that complex is going to get in the way. You are not enough. You are not worthy of this. This is potentially going to happen because the type of person you are is the type of person to eventually get abandoned. And to avoid that pain, you either withdraw from that relationship, self-sabotage it, or you engulf the person so they don't leave. So you become anxious. You see, those are two different attachment styles. We've got the avoidant and we've got the anxious, and we're going to speak about that later on in the video. But that's just a little summary of what a complex is, right? And that's one of the biggest ways that a lot of young men today, a lot of young people are controlled in their adult lives by this complex of not feeling like they're enough. And it all stems from the mother, right? Because the mother is the primary caregiver, right? She's the first relationship that you have with love, if anything. So this wound of abandonment, like we said, Bob has experienced this level of abandonment from his mother. He's interjected this complex of not being enough. He's interjected this complex, this negative self-image, because it does encompass a negative self-image, not feeling like you're enough, right? Not feeling like you're enough. It's the same thing as having a negative self-image. If you don't feel like you're enough, how's that? It's not positive, is it? So you're going to live your life trying to do the opposite. So a lot of people, they try to act superior to combat this complex of not feeling like they're enough, right? So originally, when they were a needy child who wanted love and they got a lot of inconsistency, in adulthood, they might do the opposite. So they might not be as needy. If anything, they'll become more self-sufficient. They don't need anybody else. If anything, their attachment style tends to become more avoidant. So the avoidant attachment style is essentially somebody who, again, they have an abandonment wound. They're afraid of being abandoned. They've associated love with abandonment, so they don't get close when it comes to having a relationship with the opposite sex. They can't get too close because they're afraid of being abandoned, right? They're afraid of love. They're afraid of being abandoned. It's not just with their romantic relationships as well as with their friendships. They don't get too close. It's quite surface level. They don't let anyone in. That's what we call an avoidant attachment style. Essentially, what happens when one is operating from a childhood wound like abandonment and self-hatred, they're running from their authentic self. The authentic self is the version of you before the world told you that you was not enough. So before you got that abandonment wound, who you are, That version of you. That version of you that didn't interject this negative self-image. That's who you actually are. So from that point, all you're doing is running away from that version of you, because that version of you is associated with weakness and pain. You can't survive being that version of you. You've been told implicitly and explicitly by your caregivers, society, peer groups, that that version of you is too weak. You see, so you run away from that version of you. You literally become somebody else to survive. That's what I'm saying. Like, the identity that you are now is the culmination of beliefs. You try to overcompensate with beliefs that counteract those negative limiting beliefs of not being enough, of self-hatred. So you try to do the opposite. You try to be the complete opposite. That's the persona that you portray to the world. So like I said, when it comes to relationships, you're going to have a very avoidant attachment style. When it comes to, even when it comes to your persona, right? Like your demeanor, like hyper-masculine men, they tend to be quite insecure inside, right? Like I said, you got to read between the lines, right? Somebody who, because it looks like me, yeah, bald, beard, muscles, just hyper-masculine. Do you know what I mean? That type of person is more than likely very insecure, very afraid of love, very much running away from their authentic self, which is the complete opposite. He was actually quite soft. He was actually quite open. He was loving, you see. But that version of themselves got shunned. So they have to be the opposite. That's the red pill for you. If you know the red pill movement, basically it's a bunch of young men who've been heartbroken, right? And they just hate women. That's all their content is. That's all their content's for. They just hate women. If you, what's his name? Myron Gaines? I forgot. Fresh and Fit. They're an example of the red pill. They hate women. There's just a deep misogyny there because they've been abandoned. And it probably wasn't because of maybe the women who broke their heart in their teenage years. It stems from the mother. It always stems from the mother. The mother is the primary relationship that we have with the feminine. And if that's negative, if we have an initial negative relationship with the feminine, then that's going to dictate how we relate to the feminine in our adult life. It's just how it is, and how we relate to ourselves as well. We are completely going to deny the feminine aspects of us because as human beings, we both hold feminine and masculine energy. We do. And the real integrated man is one who's able to allow, accept, and integrate the feminine energy. A lot of men like to be stoic. I talk about stoicism a lot. And they get it conflated. They get being emotionally repressed with stoicism. They conflate the two. It's not the same thing. You see, your authentic self, that childhood wound of abandonment, before you was abandoned, before Bob was abandoned, right? He was very emotionally expressive, as all human beings are, right? There was no judgment with one's emotions. Then you get judged because of your emotions. The authentic self gets judged. You express yourself wholeheartedly and you get judged. So what does one do in adulthood? They repress their emotions. Emotions do not exist. Emotions do not exist. That's what we do. That's what we do as men. And it's not sustainable because look at the suicide rate. Right? Look at the suicide rate. Men are killing themselves every single day because they ran so far away from their authentic self. That's what mental illness is. That's what self-hatred is. Self-hatred is the chronic rejection of the authentic self. You're misaligned. And emotional repression is one of the symptoms of self-hatred, of that abandonment wound. You wasn't allowed to feel. You was judged for feeling and expressing your emotions. So the opposite is needed to survive. Emotional repression. And when one represses their emotions, they usually come out very dysfunctionally. Misogyny being one of them. I'm referencing the red pill again. But that's all it is. That's what it is. When you see men talking about, oh, women are so emotional, women are so this and that, it's because you're that and you've repressed that part of you. That's how this works. That's called projection. That's another way that the psyche tends to communicate with us. Projection. You are what you hate. Whatever you dislike, whatever you hate is probably within you as well. The authentic self, when you're so young, you're useless. That's okay, you're a child, you're useless. Bob is very useless as a child, right? He's very dependent on his caregivers. So when you're judged for that, what is then gonna happen to Bob? As a second order consequence, what is Bob gonna do as a response to that? As a response to being judged for being too dependent on people. He is then going to become overly competent, right? He's going to focus on being the most competent individual he can be, so he doesn't need to rely on other people, but instead people can rely on him. And even when he gets to that point of people relying on him, what happens? He resents them. He abuses his power because he wasn't allowed to rely on others. And it's so interesting because we like to believe that, masculinity entails being completely self-sufficient. Being completely self-sufficient and relying only on yourself. And I still struggle with this, but actually being an integrated man is having the strength to lean on other people. I still struggle with that. I still struggle with that, I'll be honest. I still do. I don't lean on anyone. But I know that's integration that needs to happen. That's just how it is. Being aware to these wounds is number one, but integrating them is number two. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. It's literally just relearning. Relearning and reparenting yourself. What else does he do? What else does Bob do? Bob has a mother who abuses him. Bob, in adulthood, tends to be a perfectionist. Right? He tends to be a perfectionist. He's not allowed to make mistakes because he was judged for making mistakes. So he needs to make sure that everything is perfect. Okay? The thing is with Bob, perfectionism, it's not a virtue, it is a symptom of self-hatred. You can be so focused on being perfect to the point where you never even start. Do you run into this problem? If you're trying to start a business, if you're trying to post a video, whatever it is, whatever goal you're trying to achieve, it's never enough, it's never perfect. My physique is still not perfect. If you look at my physique, you'll be like, fucking hell, I want that. I've got to a point where I've accepted myself, so I can actually see how damn near perfect my physique is. But not so long ago, I did not believe that my physique was anything special because I was chasing this ideal, right? This ideal that I thought was completely valid, right? As men, we need to be chasing the best version of ourselves, but that pursuit is an illusion because the wound from which we're chasing this ideal is negative. If we don't tackle the wound, we will forever be chasing this ideal. Once you tackle that wound of abandonment, you will stop chasing perfection. You will actually post that video. You'll actually start that business. You'll actually get into a relationship and not wait to be earning 6 figures a year to even date. Whatever it is that you're holding back on, you will just do it because you've accepted yourself. We'll get to the conclusion of the childhood wounds, but you can see where we're going with this, right? In regards to rectifying, this abandonment wound and this complex of self-hatred. Essentially, all we're going to do is the goal is just returning back to our authentic self and accepting and reparenting that version of us that we ran away from for so long. When Bob was young, Bob never felt like he was heard or listened to. His caregiver didn't really care what he had to say. If anything, he was making too much noise. So what does Bob do in his adult life? Bob becomes a speaker. Bob becomes a teacher. Bob has to teach people. Bob wants to allow people and give people the space for them to be heard because he always wanted to be heard. And the thing is, if one doesn't rectify this abandonment wound, Bob won't even be able to hear himself. Do you hate your own voice? Here's a little question for you. Do you hate listening to your own voice? Do you cringe at the sound of your own voice? More than likely, you wasn't listened to as a child. Your voice was completely shunned. It didn't matter. You literally interjected that. Remember what I said as children? We don't have the faculties or intelligence to really stick up for ourselves, right? So we internalize everything in our environment. If we have an abusive parents who implicitly tells us that our voice is not worthy to be listened to, then we will internalize that and genuinely believe that our voice is not enough. We will not speak up, we will not speak out, we will not actualize ourselves in the world in our adulthood. As adults. Not really, we won't do it really. We don't like to see ourselves be recorded. We won't like to record ourselves. We won't like to see ourselves in pictures. We'll be editing and photoshopping our pictures. We'll be trying to make our voices deeper. We'll be trying to do all of this external bullshit to create this persona. To run away from the authentic self because that version of us is not enough. Remember, that's what we've been taught. That's what you've been taught this entire time. You don't even know it. Remember, your behaviors are the expressions of your beliefs, your subconscious beliefs, if anything. So if you haven't actualized on the goals that you need to actualize on, that vision that you have for yourself, you know what you need to do. You know you need to upload that video or you need to build that app, whatever it is. The fact that you're not doing it and you're self-sabotaging and you don't think you're worthy of doing it and you don't think you're the type of person to make it work says a lot about your subconscious beliefs. It says a lot about your childhood wounds, self-hatred and abandonment. So there's no amount of courses that you can buy. There's no amount of editing, photoshopping. There's no amount of game you can learn. There's no amount of anything outside of you that you can embody that is going to help you get over that first hurdle. You need to go in. You need to go back. Go back to that authentic version of yourself, that child, that small child. That small version of you who just needed the love that he deserved. that she deserved. It's the job of the caregiver, the parents, is to give their child that confidence that they can actualize themselves in the world. If they do anything other than that, it will literally rule the child's life. Because those beliefs are now cement. It's like a block of cement in the psyche. And it's going to take more than some affirmations to get rid of that cement. So like I said, in regards to the complex of self-hatred, we can't get rid of complexes. We can't get rid of complexes. All we can do is return to the authentic self that we were speaking about, that small version of you. And you literally need to reparent him or her. But that comes with a lot of acceptance, right? There's a lot of parts of you, there's parts of you that you do not accept. The weakness, the vulnerability, the emotions. There's a big part of you that you do not accept. Right now you're acting like your abusive mother or your abusive father. You didn't accept that part of you. You can't be like that as well. You need to be the only one who's willing to stick up for that version of yourself. That's the only way you're going to get through this. The only way out is through. Reparent that small version of yourself. That's what I did. I'm literally the man that I've always wanted to be. I'm literally him. I'm the father I've always wanted. For a long time, I was kind of looking for him. You know, where is he? I'm him. I'm him. I look back at my old self, my authentic self. And I love that kid. I love him. Keep being you. Keep being you. You are worthy. You are enough. The goals that you want to achieve in your life, you can do them and more. That's how you need to speak to yourself. Not you right now, that version of you. You might have forgotten that version of you. If you've forgotten that version of you, that says a lot about the discrepancy between you and the authentic self. How long you've been running from that version of yourself, and you're suffering right now because of that. You need to give that version of yourself the benefit of the doubt. The way that he was mistreated, abused in childhood, during his teenagehood, you need to reassure him of his legitimacy. When he got heartbroken, when he got bullied, when he was poor, whatever it was, you need to envision yourself going back to those moments and you're standing by his side and you're going through those hard times with him, reassuring him, because during those trials and tribulations, he was the neuroplasticity that was happening in that moment was shaping his negative self-image. When he was going through those times, those periods of hardships, he was literally interjecting those experiences as a reflection of him. The heartbreak was because of him. The poverty was because of him. The bullying was because of him. The abusive parents was because of him. The loneliness was because of him. All of these things was because of him. That's what he believes. That's why you are where you are now. So you need to go back, reinforce him. Be there, be his friend, be his mentor, be her mentor, whoever you are watching this video. Even just thinking about those times, because it might be difficult for you to think back to those times, right? That's the thing with trauma. The psyche likes to discard all those memories and emotions so you can survive right now. But a lot of the inner work lies in deconstructing and restructuring the narrative of what happened back then, right? Because a part of you is still locked in those memories, you see. If you go back now with your new profound intelligence and faculties, you're an adult now, you can see the situation a lot more differently. You can literally restructure how it went, all the subjects within that memory, right? You can restructure it all. You understand everybody. You understand why things happened the way it did. You can tell yourself that, listen, this wasn't right, but this is why X, Y, and Z happened. This doesn't reflect us. Our future is bright. We have things to do. Imagine if you told yourself that. Probably wouldn't be watching this video right now. You see? But by just seeing the patterns of how your behaviors are the expressions of your internal beliefs, the self-sabotage, the imposter syndrome, right? Imposter syndrome meaning you don't feel like you're enough. You don't feel like you're the type of person to achieve this goal or whatever it is. Self-sabotage, you're stopping yourself from achieving that goal. You distract yourself by doom scrolling when you should be doing an activity that's actually going to bring you forward. Depression, anxiety. You can't have anxiety when you're grounded in yourself. When I wasn't grounded in myself, I had ridiculous levels of anxiety. You feel like a leaf in the wind. When you're suffering with all of these symptoms, and now you have the insight that they're predicated on your childhood wounds, abandonment, the complex, self-hatred, you've already increased your levels of consciousness. This is going to help with the integration phase of integrating those parts of you that are still locked in those memories. The emotions that you repress, to be cold, to be avoidant, to be strong. You now understand that it's okay for you to feel those emotions, to understand them. Because feeling those emotions brings you closer to that authentic self. It's all about integrating that part of you that was so vulnerable, that controls who you are now. So that's a video on how childhood wounds essentially shape your current identity, your future. This work is super important. It's so important because this is literally why you are where you are. It's not because of this person, it's not because of that event, it's because of you. It's because you fail to see how you've been standing in your way this entire time. And all it takes is some real introspection and some patience to finally feel like you are worthy of the things that you want to achieve in this life. And then you will do it. Then you'll be free to literally step into that new identity to get the things done that you want to get done in your life. That's literally it. So if you want help with doing that, go to the comment section of this video or the description. Book a call with me. Let's see if we can work together. I guarantee you I can help you. So let's work together one-to-one. Free call. We'll just see where you're currently at. If not, join my school community. We have the ongoing Know Thyself course, which teaches you everything that I've been teaching in these videos thus far in a lot more detail. Everything to do with self-knowledge, understanding who you are, literally reprogramming your mind so you go from a place of self-hatred to self-acceptance and finally self-transcendence, where you can literally become who you want to be and achieve the goals you want. Right? It's not just theory. We're literally going to reprogram your mind so you can do that. So you can literally step into this new identity to reach your goals, because that's what you need to do first. It's not about the practical, right? Because you've watched a lot of 10K, how to reach 10K a month, how to get your physique. You've watched all of these videos, but you're still not there. So we need to change something. It's not the hardware, it's the software. And that's what the Know Thyself course is. It's about changing the software within your psyche. So join that, link in the description, link in the comments as well. Subscribe to the channel for more videos and like the video. It will help boost the channel. And I'll see you in the next one.